you all know that the Beis Hamikdash went through several stages before it was built ultimately in Jerusalem. First of all, when they crossed over the Yarden, it was a few years in a place called Gilgal, and then it moved to Shiloh, and it was about 309 years in Shiloh, and then it was destroyed during the war with the Plishtim, with the Philistines, the first main war they had with the Philistines in the time of Shmuel and Ovi, when they captured the Philistines captured the Oren Elohim, and there was a whole business with it and everything, and then they had terrible choice, the Plishtim, until they sent it back to the Yidden. And the Yidden also had difficulties with the beginning, but then eventually it went to a certain place, and it was there for 20 years or more, not in any Mishkan or anywhere. And then when David HaMelech became king, right at the beginning of his period of kingship, and David HaMelech, he sent and he brought the Aron away from where it was, and he put it in a special place in Jerusalem. So at that time, when they captured the Aron, the Philistine, that's when Mishkan Shiloh was also destroyed. In other words, it wasn't destroyed and burnt to the ground by the Plishtim. The fact that they got the Aron Elohim, also Eli HaKohen, he was the chief priest, he was the Kohen Gadol. At the time, he was very old, and when he heard that the Aron had been taken, he fell and he dropped more or less dead. He fainted. And he fainted and he hit his head and everything, the whole thing, and he passed away. And one of his sons passed away. So after that, Shiloh didn't really exist anymore, and then they moved the whole thing of the Mishkan over to another place called Givon. It was called, or Noyev. Either Noyev, I think it was Noyev. Al Mishkan Shiloh she'osid liyos b'chelcho shel Yosef. The Mishkan Shiloh, that was in the portion of Eretz Yisrael that belonged to Yosef. So therefore he wept on Yosef's shoulder because he saw, looking into the future, he saw that the Mishkan Shiloh, which was going to be built in Chelcho Shel Yosef, v'seifele hichorei, and it's also going to be destroyed. So he wept for the Beis Hamikdash temporary, which is going to be in the Chelcho Shel Yosef, and Yosef wept for the two main Bati Mikdash, permanent Bati Mikdash, which were going to be in the Chelik of Binyamin, and they were also going to be destroyed. Sure? Now, as the Sot Shaila, what happened here? That here we have this tremendous dramatic moment when the brothers, after all this 22 years of suffering for everybody, all of a sudden meet up with Yosef, and Yosef promises them he's going to look after them, and it's a tremendously emotional and dramatic meeting of everybody together, and all of a sudden Yosef falls on Benjamin, and Yosef promises them that everything's going to be right, and you don't have to worry about the fact that you brought me here. Hashem has made it into a huge salvation. Everything's fine. And they're all uniting together, and all of a sudden he falls on Binyamin's neck, and he weeps for the two Beis Hamikdash were going to be in the Chelcho Shel Binyamin, and Binyamin weeps for the Mishkan Shiloh, which is going to be Chelcho Shel Yosef. So ask yourself the amazing question: where does Rashi get in the simple flow of the Parshiyos and in the simple flow of the Psukim? Where does Rashi get that Yosef has not seen his only real brother, Benjamin? Maybe he hasn't seen him at all, or if he has seen him before, he only saw him when he was very, very small. But it's a tremendously emotional moment. So he wept. He wept on Benjamin's shoulder, and Benjamin wept on his shoulder. Wouldn't it make simple sense in Shutei Shel Mikra to say that's why they wept? And nonetheless, Rashi avoids that altogether, and he learns mamish in the simple pshat, the mikdash, that they both had. Now it's brought down in Bereshis Rabbah, in the Medrash Rabbah, and also in another collection of Medrash called the Yalkut, it's brought down that they had a spirit of prophecy. At this moment, Yosef had a spirit of prophecy beneged to Benjamin, and Benjamin had a spirit of prophecy beneged to what was going to happen to Mishkan Shiloh. So all of a sudden, at this moment, they get to prophecy. They look into the future and they see the destruction of the Mishkan and the Mikdash, and they start weeping for that. And it's a bit strange. Now, the truth is that the Targum Yonis and Ben Uziel, he brings exactly that. Now, it's one of the Targum Yonis and Ben Uziel. He was a Tana. He was from the Mishnaic sages. He was a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. That's well known. He was unbelievably great Tana. So in his translation of the Torah, he brings many Kabbalahs that our sages have. He doesn't translate the words one after the other, but he brings many Kabbalahs that our sages had. So therefore, if we look in the Targum Yonis and Ben Uziel, he says exactly the same thing as Rashi. He says that Yosef fell over on the neck of Benjamin, and he wept for the two Beis Hamikdashes, and Benjamin fell on exactly as Rashi brings. Then, however, he goes on to say, in the next passage, it's written that he kissed all his brothers, and he also wept for them. So the Targum Yonis and Ben Uziel says that he wept for them because he saw that they're going to be spread out amongst the Goyim. In other words, the Golos. That he looked forward as regards his brothers, and he saw that they're going to all be spread out. That's why he wept on them. So once again, a very emotional moment. And Rashi says, no, that Yosef's weeping, not Rashi, I'm sorry, the Targum Yonis, he says that Yosef's weeping was because he saw they're going to be spread out in the Golos. And that's why he wept. So I asked the question, what led both Rashi and to a certain extent the Targum to this whole theme of the destruction of the temples and the fact that temples were going to be in certain people's places, are going to be destroyed, and then Yosef foresaw the whole Golos of his brothers, he wept for them. How does it all fit into what appears to be a moment where these type of things didn't normally need to play a role? Only something, when you had a very special nevuah on your own right, you could see into the future. But where does that all fit in what appears to be amazingly unusual, emotional, and positive sort of moment? So, this, as it's brought down here on my Chumash, or this Lashon that Yosef fell on Benjamin's shoulder, and Benjamin fell on his shoulder, and they wept for the Batei HaMikdash, or for the Mishkan, Shiloh, that's a Gemara in Masechet Megillah. It's written exactly that. So, it would look as if Rashi is bringing the Gemara. But, if you look in the Gemara, you notice that there's a bit of a tricky difference between what's written in the Gemara and what Rashi says. In other words, the Gemara was bothered. Where did he get out of this whole thing that he kissed Benjamin, and Benjamin kissed him into the Batei Mikdash and the whole, thing, two Batei Mikdash, one Beis Hamikdash in Yosef's case. So the Gemara makes a very interesting statement. The word neck, what were they doing for on one of those necks? But later in the Parsha, we're going to bring that when Yosef meets Yaakov, he does the same thing again. He falls on Yaakov's neck and he weeps. But Yaakov Avinu didn't weep. That's today's. I don't know if it's today's chit or tomorrow. If it's tomorrow's chit, then I can't expect you to know. If it's today's, maybe, yeah. Anyway, we'll soon see about that. So, I asked the Shara, what is going on? And the Targum Yonis sees fit to bring the same thing. So, the Gemara says that if you look at the word for the neck, it's written in the plural, Chavarei. Chavarei is plural. So therefore it says the Gemara, Kama Chavorim Hayu Lebenyon. How many necks did he have? That's the Gemara. Yeah. Very interesting question. How many necks did he have? Ella, the whole trick says the Gemara is that word neck. And from the word that it's written he had two necks, Well, that's a sign that he's looking at the two Batei Mikdash, which are going to be in the Chelcha Shabana. So it's written in the Gemara. So it would be tempting, and some of the great Meforshim learn that that's like what Rashi learns by Benjamin Sosrin Tzavorei. But some people want to learn Al Tzavorov, that Benjamin wept on Yosef's neck. It's written in singular, not Tzavorov, Lashon Ravim, but Tzavoroi, without a yud. And a lot of people make a big fuss about that, and they say that we don't find that in the Sefer Torahs that we have at hand, and a whole big business about it. Anyway, some of the great Meforshim, based on the Gemara, they say that by Benjamin it's written a neck in the plural, by Ezra it's written a neck in the singular. And well, that's how they got to the two Batimid, or the one base Mikdash by Yosef. We'll soon see about that a little bit later on. However, suffice it to say, it's very difficult to learn that that's what Rashi learned. That Rashi's whole deal was the fact that the word for neck is written in the plural by Benjamin, and in reference to Yosef it's written in the singular. Because Rashi writes over there in the Gemara, if you look up in the Gemara Megillah, Rashi says that Ladaiti Loigar Sinan. Rashi said we don't learn the whole kasha if he had two necks or one neck. Rashi said that kasha is a misprint. Loigar Sinan. We don't put that into the Gemaras. Says Rashi, why? He said the word for the neck in Lashon Kodesh, as Rashi writes, is one of those words that can be written both in the plural and in the singular, and it doesn't matter whether it's in the plural or the singular, it means the neck. If it's in the plural, it also means your neck. It's one of those nouns that can be either plural or singular. Therefore, Rashi learns in the Gemara, Rashi learns that the word, grammatically, the word for the neck it's not sometimes plural and sometimes singular. It's always singular, but it can sometimes be written in the plural. That's what Rashi learns. I saw it brought down in the name of the Radak. The Radak was also one of the Brenner David Kimchi. He's one of the great Rishonim, and he was a great grammatist. And he wrote a huge book that's called the Sefer HaMichlel, where he takes all the words in Lashon Kodesh, and he shows how they fit together according to grammar and according to the shortest of the word where it's from. And amazing grammatic work on all the words, on thousands, millions, but thousands of words in Lashon Kodesh. So I saw brought in his name that he writes it, why do you write the word Sabah sometimes in the plural? The neck can be written Tzavorei or Tzavorim in the plural, because the neck has got like two parts to it. It's got, what do you call it, the corner and the waist. It's got two pipes that one goes for breathing and one is for taking food in, the corner and the waist. And that's important in other matters. It's like two things joined together. However, once you go past the neck, everything joins into pairs, right? You have the lungs are two things. Then your ribs, says the Radak, two sets of ribs. Everything goes all the way, two arms, two legs. Everything is like it divided into pairs, except for the heart. The heart is the one. That's because he says the heart is like the center. It's a very special Indian all the time. And that's why we say the neck is considered like a singular, even though it's really sometimes written in a plural, because it joins everything in a plural into a one. But in other parts of the body, it's not that way. They divide into two. So they are, in effect, a plural. That's what the Radak writes. Anyway, it comes out of he says that there's no real basis in Rashi, because Rashi writes clearly in the Gemara that he's not good at that question in the Gemara, how many necks did he have, because he said it doesn't make sense in Lashon Kodesh, such a kasha in Lashon Kodesh can be either singular or plural, doesn't matter. However, things get a little bit more complicated for Rashi, that it's written in the Medrash Rabbah. Now the Medrash Rabbah was different than the Gemara, and the Medrash Rabbah, it's a little bit harder to say that Loi Garsin, we just don't go with that, for all sorts of reasons. In the Medrash written a very similar thing. V'kamet sovorim hoyu leBinyamin, Ela Malamed, so the same thing. The two Bati Mikdash, and Nevuah on the part of Yosef, they looked into the future, so the two Bati Mikdash are going to be destroyed. So, Lafida Medrash, it looks a little bit more, maybe a case for dividing between plural tzava and singular tzava, making a whole diak out of that. But it could be that Rashi holds over there, it's also not Pataka's idea, or in the Gemara for sure he does. So therefore, it makes sense to say, over here, since Rashi doesn't mention that, he doesn't go into that at all, he just says straight away that he fell on his neck. For this reason, he fell on for these Bati Mikdash. He doesn't bring it, it's got to do with it's a plural word or a singular word. It would seem that Rashi Taka holds that it doesn't matter. It's not really important whether it's plural or singular, which means that the reason for writing what he says, even though it's from the Gemara, it's not based on that kasha in the Gemara. Rashi must have some other Indian in the way the psukim develop why he said it. So I had a bit of a theory as to why Rashi learned here on this particular passage that it was like a nevuah thing. It wasn't just a simple matter of emotional weeping, but each one wept on a certain Indian which was going to be tremendously important in the future of the whole Jewish people. And so, that's like this. It's written a couple of times that Yosef wept. It's written earlier that when he first saw Benjamin, and he first saw Benjamin with him, before he even revealed himself, when the whole trick was still going, but it's written that when he saw Benjamin, and then Yehuda came over to him and started, or even before that, it's written that Yosef went into the room and he wept because he found it very, very hard to see his brother and not be carried away by the rachamim, how do you call it, the mercy and love that he felt for his brother. So certainly he went into a room and he wept. And then he came back out and he kept talking with them. And then Yehuda came up, and when he saw Yehuda's whole request and whole putting forth the case and everything, then Yosef decided this is it, he's got to reveal himself to his brothers. So it's written that he said, I can't put up with the whole thing, take everybody from away, must send everybody out of the room. And then it's written, Vayita in koile bivchi. And it's written that he wept again, Yosef, he wept very loudly, even to the point that the Mitzrayim and the whole household of Pharaoh, they heard him weeping. So that's already twice now he's wept. He wept once purely for having seen Benjamin. Now he's wept again, telling them brothers at the moment of his revealing himself to his brother, he's weeping again. So l'chayra, we could assume that Rashi learns that the emotional weeping for having seen his brother, Benjamin particularly, and all the brothers for that matter, in a way that he knew he was going to reveal himself and unite with them, he's already wept twice. He's wept for Benjamin, and he's wept also in a general way before he reveals himself to them. So therefore, all of a sudden, after he's already revealed himself, and he's told them how everything's going to be okay and everything's all right, all of a sudden he falls on Benjamin's neck and he's weeping again. So Rashi learns that it's hard to learn that that's got anything to do with emotional reunion, that you weep. Because we see in the Torah that does happen. It's written by Esau and Yaakov when they met, that they wept. They hadn't seen one another in years, even though Esau was a pretty undesirable sort of a character, but nonetheless he wept, and Yaakov wept together with him. And we find other such cases, and also later in the parasha, when Yosef meets Yaakov Avinu for the first time, it's that he wept a great deal. And so that Yaakov didn't weep, and so Rashi's got a question, why did Yaakov weep? And he said he was reading the Shema, it's a famous Torah. Yaakov Avinu was busy reading the Shema, and that's why he didn't weep. So everybody asked the question, well, he didn't have any other moment to read the Shema. At that moment, it's a whole big discussion. Anyway, suffice it to say that there was a reason why they hadn't seen in 22 years, and his father and Yaakov had longed so much for his lost son, they meet up, so there was a weeping. Over here, we have to say that the weeping for the reunion had already been done. And now, it's like a new type of weeping altogether. There must be some very special reason for this weeping. You know, it's not just purely, and it's not based on the word for neck being plural or singular. Rashi holds that that's not significant. He holds it could be that. And, he wrote that in the Gemara, as L'chori would hold that here, because it's a grammatical thing. It's not something you're likely to change your mind about, in his view. It's a grammatical inyan. Therefore, there must be some other inyan report to this whole business. Therefore, we have to say that this is a special inyan, a ruach nevuah that occurred both to Yosef and Binyamin after they'd already renewed. And then Rashi says that also when he kissed his brothers and wept again on the brothers, we have to say that's also according to the Targum Yonis. Rashi doesn't go into that so much. But the Targum Yonis is that because he saw the brothers were also going to be involved in the Golas. And therefore, it's another type of weeping. It's not a weeping. The weeping's already been there. That's what we can assume. That those are the pshat. Anyway, however it shouldn't be, some people want to learn another diuk, and they want to say that Rashi is concerned about the fact that it's not written that he kissed him, but the brothers written that he kissed him. Over the Targum Yonis, and even when it's written that he kissed him, or kissed all the brothers, nonetheless he still wept for the Golas that they're going to be in later generations. And they want to say that because it's written here, and he kissed him, in another place he didn't kiss, by Binyamin, it's not written that he kissed him, it's just that he fell on his neck. They want to build on that sort of diuk. But it seems to me that the simple way to learn it is, like I just said, the more approachable way to learn it. Even though all the approaches leave a little bit of a doubt in our minds exactly why did Rashi do it. It's one of these very amazing things. And even though there's a Gemara and there's a Medrash Rabbah, Rashi is learning the simple flow of the Pesukim. He's not teaching a Shir and Gemara, and he's not learning a piece of Medrash. He's learning the simplicity in the Pshat. So, if we'll say, like those that want to learn, that the whole deal is based on whether Tzava is Rabbim or singular, and that's what indicated that they were talking about the Beis Hamikdash. There's a very fascinating sikha from the Rebbe Melech Moshiach here. The Rebbe says that Beklal, why would the Beis Hamikdash be sort of hidden, revealed or hinted at through the neck? I mean, because whichever way they fell on the neck of one another, and they had a nevuah about the Beis Hamikdash. So one way or another, there must be some connection with falling on one another's necks and the Beis Hamikdash. So the Rebbe says a very remarkable thing, and the Rebbe said, the highest place in a mensch is his head, and the head is the ruling thing over the whole body. The head is the highest of all the limbs, and it also governs over and controls and dictates. Moyach shalit al alev, that your brain has to rule over the whole rest of your body, particularly your heart. Is imkain, the real ruler of the whole body, and the highest point of the whole body is the head. So l'chora should have been written that if Yosef was doing something very special, that he kissed Binyamin's head, and Binyamin kissed him on the head. And that's usually what you do. If you want to kiss somebody, you kiss them on the face or the head or whatever. Yeah? Now, Mamela, what's this business of the neck? So if you look later on at the end of the Torah, when Moshe Rabbeinu gives these brachas, he says that the Beis Hamikdash was built on the mountain of the temple, on the Har HaMoriah in Yerushalayim, and what we call the Har HaBayis. However, it's brought down in the Gemara, and Rashi brings it down. The Beis Hamikdash was not at the top of the mountain. It wasn't on the spitz of the mountain. No, it was a little bit down, a certain amount down, And he brings the whole thing there, Rashi, that connected with Yosef also, that the best part of a shore, how do you call it, an ox, is not his head but his shoulder. That's the best part of him, because it's a little bit down from the head, and that's the most beautiful place. And therefore Yosef's called in the blessings of Moshe, he's called a Shir. B'chor Shir Hodaloi. B'chor Shir Hodaloi. So anyway, it says Gemara Masechta Yuma, and Rashi brings it over there, that the best part of a shore is his shoulder. And therefore the Beis HaMikdash wanted to be the most beautiful, as it were, thing, and therefore it was a little bit down from the head, and it's called on the neck. It was literally on the neck of the mountain, not the head of the mountain. And therefore the Beis HaMikdash is connected with the neck of the shore, with the shoulder, the end of the neck, and the Beis HaMikdash is called the neck. So says the Rebbe, an amazing crap. Why would the Beis HaMikdash be called the neck? Now we've moved it further. Not why does he kiss him on the neck? Why would the Beis HaMikdash be called the neck? What's so special about the neck? So the Rebbe says, what joins your head with the rest of your body? The neck. And according to Chassidus and Kabbalah, what transports all of the power of his bonaness and the understanding and the reflection of the moich into the lev is the neck. And that's where you get a lot of trouble. In the neck, you can have these kohen, the vases that we mentioned before. They're like representatives of pare. They can stop but according to the Arizal, if you work hard and you purify yourself, then your moich goes down through the neck into the heart. It's got to go through the neck in order to get into the heart. Nimtzulef, he said that what connects physically and spiritually the brain with the rest of the body is the neck. And that all the good messages from the brain reach your heart and the rest of your body through your throat or through your neck. As is written in Chassidus, as is written in the Kisvei Arizal, from the Arizal. So the Rebbe said, come to us, the neck is a very important thing. The neck is what connects the Rosh with everything, with the whole part of all the rest of the body and all of its functioning details is all connected by the neck. And therefore, that's why the Gemara says that the Beis HaMikdash was built a little bit down on the neck of the mountain, not on the top of the mountain. So the Rebbe said that if the Beis HaMikdash would have been built on the spit, that they call it what's it called, the peak of the mountain, then everybody would say, oh, this is wonderful building, this is, it's up there, it's away from us, You just have to know that there's a tremendous hashpah elokis, but everybody would just walk around and say, oh, it's all very beautiful, it's for the Kohanim, or for the Leviim, but it's not for the whole world. But once it's a little bit down from the top of the mountain, it's in the neck of the mountain, then that's to show that the whole part of the whole function of the Beis HaMikdash is to bring the head, Dahainu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and everything connected with him, everything connected with Kedusha, to bring it down into the world, bring it down through the neck of the world into all the world. And therefore the whole union of the Beis HaMikdash is not to be a beautiful place where everybody talk about it in history and say, oh, what a wonderful place. The whole union of the Beis HaMikdash is to affect the whole world. It's got to come down. It's got to be part. V'shochanti b'soi chom. Asuli migdosh v'shochanti b'soi chom. And it's one on the diak in Chassidus that should be written v'shochanti b'soi choi. Ella, that the whole function of the Beis HaMikdash was to dwell in every detail of people in their lives and through that in the whole world. In other words, the Beis HaMikdash was meant personally for you in your life, in your own private part of the world, not when you go up there 3 times a year or something. But the Beis HaMikdash was meant to be part of your life. And therefore, the Beis HaMikdash is hinted at in this word neck, in this word tzava. And therefore Rashi would tell you that, whether the word neck is the key word to get to this pshat, or once we already get to this pshat, that they fell on one another's neck. Why did they fall on one another's neck? Exactly. Why did they do it exactly that way? Because neck is indicatory of the key point in life. In other words, you can understand everything. You can learn Chassidus, and you can learn Yiddishkeit, and you can learn all sorts of good Sachen, and it makes tremendous sense, and it's wonderful. Although it doesn't necessarily come down into the life, it doesn't necessarily change your life. You know, you're still the same old, how do you call it, pair music. You're the same old wild movie character that you were before. Or, no, you work hard and you bring it down. And to do it, it's got to go through a couple of little pipes. It's got to get down and reach the heart and that's the key to everything. That is the purpose of the Beis Hamikdash. And therefore, we can say that Rashi learns that why we have to say that that's what was going on. It's like we said, because they've already wept for having met. Once it's been all settled, why did they fall on one another's necks? That's the point. They could have fallen on no one another's heads. Why did they fall on the neck? The neck is the key to it. And the Beis Hamikdash is a neck. The Beis Hamikdash is not a cop of the world, it's the neck of the world. I mean, it's an amazing deal. With that in mind, then we can understand what was this whole inyan, and we can suggest even further. We can go a little bit further. And we can say that why all of a sudden, at such a tremendously significant moment, did this occur? Why did all of a sudden, we're leaving behind the exact things that oblige it in the simple meaning of the passage. Or in a more general way, why would that happen, a thing like that? So it takes us right back to the early part of the Chumash in Pasha Lech Lecha. There's a famous Ramban over there, and the Ramban says that everything that happened by our forefathers, Romans and Yaakov, and we have to assume that that's also applicable to Yosef and the Shvatim, because they are also general people. They're not called forefathers, but they're like the forefathers of the whole Jewish people. And the Ramban says, a famous cloud, which is brought in the Medrash, Maise Oves Siman Labanim. Things that happened by our forefathers, they're like a sign for us. They're all going to occur by all the Jewish people, all the years to come. And therefore, Yosef, he's already met up with everybody, he's already wept for everybody. So all of a sudden he weeps on Benjamin's neck. Well, that's a siman labanim. This was a very special moment. The dafka, when everything was prepared to be so a new look to the future and a new look into the days and the generations which are to come. Yosef showed a siman. He showed a giving of power to all the generations to come, that you've got to look and see what's going to be in the future, and you've got to do it in a way that you know that the ikka of the whole world is the Beis Hamikdash. The whole basic inyan is of Yidden is not just that we received the Torah, but there was built the Beis Hamikdash in Jerusalem. Until that had occurred, it wasn't the Tachas HaShleimus of it. Once the Beis Hamikdash has been built, that's the center of the world, and that's and therefore the Rebbe, the Rebbe demands and shrays the whole time that you must, Yibona Beis Hamikdash bim heiru v'yomenu. You have to have because kol that we don't have the Beis Hamikdash, no matter how perfect Yiddishkeit is, it's lacking. But there's a perfection in the whole giving of the Torah into the world that's lacking because the Beis Hamikdash is not there. Yosef wanted to show a siman labanim. Here's his beloved brother, the brother of his, and he looked into the future and he saw that he's going to have two Bati Mikdash. They're going to be destroyed. Oh, you've got to weep for that. You've got to, how do you call it, show a suffering and a readiness that will soon talk. And to, as it were, somehow or another, correct that situation. Because just weeping, just purely for its own right, Yosef was too great a man for that. He was too great, and he knew that that's only a certain step to weep. But weeping doesn't really, how do you call it, fix anything. It just shows a tremendous identification with it. But ultimately, it doesn't fix it. And the same with Benjamin wept for his Beis Hamikdash, which was Shiloh. It wasn't the full Beis Hamikdash, but it was like a temporary Beis Hamikdash. And if that leads us to a cloud that, apart from the actual things that maybe led to this, the message in here of the whole of the Beis Hamikdash and looking into the future through and in and surrounding the whole Inyan of the Beis Hamikdash. And the fact there's a very fascinating Maharal MiPrague on this Rashi. And the Maharal MiPrague says, he says a very interesting sort of, how they call it, catch about the whole Inyan. And he brings down, he says that after Shlomo HaMelech had passed away and his son was called Yerovam, in his time the kingship in Eretz Yisrael split into two. It was what's called Malchus Yisrael, and they were in the Shomron and everywhere, and Malchus Yehuda, which was in Jerusalem. Those two, they were Yehuda and Benjamin was also together with Yehuda, and they were centered in Jerusalem, and they had the Beis Hamikdash. And then there was 10 tribes that they lived in the Shomron, and they had their own king. Yeah, the first one, he was a very quite difficult personality called Yerovam ben Noah. Anyway, whatever. That was a tremendously tragic thing, according to the Mekubalim. A terribly tragic thing that the Malchus of the Eden was split. But whatever happened, does anybody know where the 10 Shvatim to this day? This continuous trying to find out what happened to those 10 Shvatim.
We're sitting here.
Yeah, because they went away. They were sent away into Golos by the Melech Ashur, the Melech Babel, a long time before the Eden did. Yeah.
They're in my basement.
Yeah.
The 10 tribes are in my basement.
Basement?
The 10 tribes are in my basement.
We're sitting here, though. The representatives of the tribes are right here.
No, the 10 tribes. We're not descended from the 10 tribes.
Yeah.
Are we descended from the 10 tribes?
No.
Well, we don't know.
We don't know.
But in Pashtus, we're not. Because the 10 tribes are, who knows where they are. But anyway, the Maharal MiPrague says that what's going to happen to Yosef Lovei is, that's written in this week's Haftarah, that's written in the Haftarah, that Yosef and Yehuda, let's say Yehuda, and Malchus Yisrael. Okay, the chief one of Malchus Yisrael was the sons of Ephraim, and Manasseh, and the other 10, of the chief one was Ephraim. So Ephraim is from Yosef. So it's like you got Yehuda and Yosef. So certainly Yosef Lovei, they're going to meet up, and they're going to be reunited together. It's written in the Haftarah this week's parasha. So they're going to be reunited. So the Maharal says that that's going to be a tremendous simcha when the 10 Shvatim are going to be found, and they're going to unite up together. That's going to be a tremendous Gilui Elokus. And he brings a pasuk in Yirmiyahu and Novi to hint at that, without going into the whole pasuk. But it's written that at that moment of great simcha, they're going to unite together. They're also going to weep. It's going to be a weeping. So the Maharal MiPrague says, well, that's what they were hinting at here, both Benjamin and, because Benjamin is Yehuda, he's part of Yehuda, and Yosef is the 10 Shvatim. He represents Ephraim and all the others. What's going to happen is they're going to meet up. It's going to be a tremendous geula and a tremendous simcha, but they're going to weep. What are they doing weeping, okay? They're going to remind themselves about all the suffering that it went through. And where did the suffering come from? It came from the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. That the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash is the shortage of all the Goliaths and all the Choras and all the Inyonim that are not only by Yidden, but in the world, Beklau. And if I said the Maharal MiPrague learns that the weeping that both Yosef and Benjamin had is like a sort of a twist one. First of all, it's going to be a meeting of them together, and that's why they wept on each on one another's shoulder. But why they weep? They should be happy about it. Eventually, they're going to be reunited. So when they're reunited, it's going to be a tremendous simcha, but there's going to be a weeping on all the churches of what have been. I say, bring the Hadikot, the Maharal MiPrague. However, that's a little bit difficult on their way because it's mashma. The weeping was on the etzem, Indian itself. So, but I mean, it's a very amazing idea, and it fits in very beautifully with the Haftarah. So that's the Marami Prat. In other words, according to him, it's like slightly round the corner, that the weeping is on the past once the Geula will occur. However, it comes along the Rebbe, and at the end of the Sikha that I mentioned before, the Rebbe makes it very obvious, like all the Rebbe's kashas, it's so obvious that they sort of jump into your eye, and why didn't I think of that myself? And that is like this. The Rebbe said that this is a very strange case, that each one is weeping for the other guy's mikdash. That Yosef was weeping for the two Beis Hamikdash in Binyamin's portion, and Binyamin wept on his shoulder for Beis Hamikdash in his portion. So the Rebbe said, why didn't they weep for their own portion? Each one could have wept for his own. Would have to fall on the other guy's neck. Weep for his Beis Hamikdash, weep for your own. Yeah, it should be bothered about your own Beis Hamikdash. What are you going weeping on the other fellow's shoulder for his Beis Hamikdash? It's a very amazing question. In other words, what was this good like exchange? There's a huge exchange that Yosef weeps for the two Bati Mitzvahs were in Yerushalayim, and Benjamin weeps for the Beis Hamikdash that was in Shiloh. It's a very basic and simple question. Why didn't each one weep for his own one? Benjamin should have wept for his own Bati Mitzvah, and Yosef should have wept for his Beis Hamikdash. So the Rebbe says an amazing thing. The Rebbe says that Ein Hanami, for your own Beis Hamikdash, you don't weep. Now this is a very amazing statement, because according to the Kabbalah and the Kishrei Arizal and everything, there's a very big thing to weep for the Beis Hamikdash. There's a big union of Bechia, that you should weep, especially during the 3 weeks and on Tisha B'Av. There's an union to weep for the Beis Hamikdash. There is such a thing. But the Rebbe says that that's not an ultimate value. That's just something that has to be. But if you've got a Beis Hamikdash in your portion, your own Beis Hamikdash, and it's destroyed, then you're not supposed to sit around weeping. You're supposed to get cracking and do something and devote your whole life to the fact that the Beis Hamikdash should be rebuilt. So what were they crying for in reference to the other guy's Beis Hamikdash? So the Rebbe said, you've got to be so great, and a Yid has got to be so, unselfish and devoted to the truth in the world. They has to see by Ishchava that he's got two Beis Hamikdashes, which are going to be destroyed. Emma's not his Beis Hamikdash. There's two over there. So he's got to make sure that the other guy will do something about it. He's got to wake up the other guy. He said, waking up the other guy, there's different ways to do it. And so he said, one way is to try and persuade him. The other way is to weep for him. In other words, to pray. The weeping is like a prayer that to rouse. It's brought down in Tanya that when you weep, you wake up mercy for somebody. The weeping causes the Avish to have mercy on that person that you wept for. So in other words, you weep for your chava, that the Avish should have Rahmanas on him, and that he should do something about his Beis Hamikdash. And therefore, Yosef, he understood there's going to be two Beis Hamikdash by his brother Binyamin, and because he loved his brother Binyamin, and he wanted to try and make sure that he should do something, he tried to arouse him, and so that's why he wept. At this particular moment, he didn't want to talk to him and persuade him, but he wept in order to arouse a Rachamim Rab that he should do something, as the Rebbe taught. And the same with Binyamin, did it for him. Binyamin wept on his shoulder that Yosef should do about his, or his descendants. They should about your own Beis Hamikdash. A Beis Hamikdash is your own portion. You haven't got any time to weep. If you want to weep, or pick a ball, it's a nice thing. But you got to get moving. You got to do something. And if somebody weeps for you, or Matoi, somebody weeps for you, well, that's good. It'll arouse Rachamim B'Shamayim for you, and then you got no excuse. Somebody's already wept for you, and also you're supposed to be doing something anyway, then you got to get something. When you got to say, we want the Beis Hamikdash now, and you got to do something about it. HaMashiach. And remember, that this whole Indian was that Yosef and Benjamin were having Rahmanas one on the other, seeing that they're going to be in Sodas, but each one didn't cry for himself because he was busy doing what he should be doing for himself. He was crying for the sake of the other guy, not for himself. And he was trying to help the other person. He was trying to be Ma'ir, Rachamim, Shemaim, through weeping for the sake of the other brother. He said that building the Beis HaMikdash is that you've got to have no rest in your own life, but not in a way where you'll sit around weeping. On Thursday nights, by Christmas Shalamita, or once a year or twice a year, you'll sit around and you weep for the Beis HaMikdash. And it's a big thing. You have to weep as well. Oh, you've got to get cracking. You've got to do something. The rest of the time, no time to sit around weeping. You have to do something. I weep, is that's for the other guy. You weep in order to arouse your Rachamim and Rachmanas, that they will get cracking also. And they'll realize that they've got to do something. And therefore the whole weeping on the other one's shoulder was really an Indian of responsibility for the other guy, and knowing that you've got to take into account that you've got a brother that he's going to face such a churban. You have to do everything in your power that Hashem should help him. You have to work out what he's got to do. And Mamir Kutos Lafi said that here we have an amazing thing, a historical moment. And we see that all the history has been made. Yosef said, I'm going to look after you guys, and everything's been forgiven. We're not mentioning the selling of me anymore. Everything's fixed. He's already made up with the brothers and with Dalding. And then all of a sudden, he starts weeping on Benjamin's shoulder. Benjamin says, if I look at the historical moment, Ma'isa Ovis Simon Lepanim. It's like a great forefather that was setting yeah. So what is the Simon Lepanim that you got to live with the Beis HaMikdash? And we see that even in that moment, way before there was even any Beis HaMikdash in the world, a long time before, it hadn't been built yet. Even we see that there was this amazing assurance on the part of these two brothers that the Beis HaMikdash has got to be rebuilt, and that the secret to the whole existence of Yidden and the whole Indian of Yidden in the world and the whole welfare of the whole world is centered around the Beis HaMikdash, and about your wanting that there should be a Beis HaMikdash. Add Kirikach, that you're prepared to pray for your brother, that he should also feel the same way, and be more rachamim for him. If you don't see him having that right now, or but you yourself, you got to get cracking. And therefore, I must say that I was tremendously impressed. And I'm sure you guys also did a lot of time, and I'm sure it was very impressive. But I was in Tzvas for a few days during Hanukkah, and I saw the Bochnim in the Yeshiva in Tzvas, how they devoted themselves to the Miftoim. It's mamish nistel pitev. They were just day and night all over, and mamish they had no time. They slept from just a few hours. Maybe they had something to eat in the morning, briefly, and they prayed. Maybe with a minyan, maybe stama. After that, they would just all in cars and buses now, all over Eretz Yisrael, mamish, all over the north, all over the mid part of the Galil, all the way down to Hadera and past Haifa, almost down into our area. And they went to every issue and every village and every place that you could imagine. And they just literally covered the whole. So, I mean, it's just unbelievable. And where does it all come from? It comes from the fact that we had a Rebbe. And the Rebbe was also from Yosef, because Yosef was the name of the Friedrich Rebbe. And who was the one who started the whole in of Hafotzes and Mayonas was the Friedrich Rebbe. Why did he do that? Because he wanted that you should wake up. He wept on your shoulder for you. He wanted that you should wake up and get something done. And you've got to do something and go out and see that the Beis HaMikdash be built. Otherwise, for whatever reason known to the Eibusha, it's not going to happen. Stop. It's waiting for us to do something. And that's Ma'isa offers. Simon Labanim is an amazing thing that Yosef and Benjamin were given a special nevuah from Hashem, that at this great and tremendously positive moment, they should look into the future and have the koyah to weep for the Bati Migdash, or for the Beis HaMikdash, and even for Shiloi, which wasn't a complete Beis HaMikdash, but it was nonetheless on the way to the Beis HaMikdash. The Rambam brings down everything. It was like a temporary Beis HaMikdash. That you have to, even for that, you've got to be prepared to know that already that it's standing, that's the center of Jewish life and the center of the whole existence of Yidden, and Derech Agav, it's the existence of the whole world. Like you saw when you were on the Mivtorim, that Dave was telling me that he went into the central, what is it, central station or something, Grand Central, or whatever, and hundreds and hundreds of Goyim were informed about Yiddishkeit and the Sheva Mitzvahs, B'nai Noach, and all sorts of inyanim. In other words, it's the whole world. That we want Mashiach now, which is hidden in the Mivtorim, is not just for the Yidden, it's to rebuild the whole world in a way that will be according to Hashem's plan. And that's what the Sefer Chinuch says when I get to the Beis HaMikdash, that the Beis HaMikdash is just, it's the center of the world. Just like Kaviyachov, the Abish says the center of everything, he's got a point in the world, a point that's the center of the whole world. And that's the Beis HaMikdash. Not just the center for Yidden, it's the center for the whole world. And if the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt and be Mekoimoi, Kamoisha Tori, the whole world will be better. Everybody, all the Goyim and everything, and that's what they all flood into the Beis HaMikdash to learn from Hashem. And that's what's happening now. That's what's happening with the whole amazing campaign of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. That's what's happening. It's not just Yidden, it's the whole world. Mamish Kipshutei is at stake. We've got to, for our own selves, we've got to get cracking. For the sake of our brothers, we've got to be prepared to weep for them and to be more Rachamim Rabbim. For the purpose is we want Moshiach now, Alidei, Yibona Beis HaMikdash B'mheira V'yo, B'yomeinu. Those are the Nakuda Atzmis, and the whole inner which is hidden here in this whole amazing Rashi. And therefore, a little bit further, he kissed his brothers again. It says the Targum Yenis, and he was more Rachamim Rabbim one day for the Golas. Now the Golas is a terrible thing, and therefore Yeshu Atadi wasn't just enough that he kissed Benyamin. He was more Rachamim Rabbim for Benyamin. He had a court. He wept especially for all the brothers. Have you got a problem? That's something I don't allow. I don't allow schmeichling and carrying on during my show. Okay? Just that a bit of self-control. Oh, that's the way. If Yana wants to be a little bit of a Meshuggah, you don't have to be. You follow? It follows if he's there that that's the inner we're facing today. Like Dog told me about at a Mivtorim in America, like I saw when I was in Tzfaz, it's big stakes, very, very big stakes. Because the world is not, in an easy situation, to put it mildly. The world is not in an easy situation. And the answer is the Rebbe's way. Or the storming about the Beis HaMikdash, that's what. Where's the book for that? Who said you have to storm about the Beis HaMikdash? Maybe storm about the latest politics or something. Or find some way of persuading Pliny ben Pliny. No, the Rebbe says that's what we see with Yosef Atzadik and Benjamin did. They had the most wonderful moment in the world. What they do? They looked into the future about the Beis HaMikdash. And they stormed about it. They wept. They stormed and they made a big fuss. And remember, that's the message of us nowadays. We've got to get cracking and bring the Beis HaMikdash, take miyad, and b'mheira v'yomeinu, and this time it'll be the Beis HaMikdash Hashlishi. These were two Bati Mikdash, or one that preceded them. Now we're going for the final stake, and it'll be the Beis HaMikdash Hashlishi, and it'll come down in the Shemayim. This time, the Avish will make sure it's going to fix itself in the Shemayim on the right basis, and there's not going to be any more messing around. So that's hidden in all that is also the message of Hey Tavis. What we're going to do is give you a bit of a break, and we'll sit for a little while. If we bring over there, we'll say l'chaim, and I'll just tell you briefly what it's got to do with hay tables. Okay.